What's going on, everyone? It's your boy Tommy Sotomayor, and I'm coming back again, this time with the fourth installment of my review of the movie Straight Outta Compton. This one is going to be a little bit touchy. Currently, right now, black women are complaining about Dr. Dre and the biopic for NWA, Straight Outta Compton. They're complaining because they believe that everybody's looking at Dr. Dre as a great guy when he's actually not. They're saying that he is an abuser of women. They're citing the fight that he had with a television personality at the time by the name of Dee Barnes. Dee Barnes was the host of a show called Pump It Up. The process of doing an interview with Dr. Dre and NWA, she'd also done an interview with Ice Cube. While a lot of the NWA members said disparaging things about Ice Cube, the MTV brass, or the people at the station where she worked, this is what she says. She says they thought that some of the things that were being said by NWA was really good. So what they did was they played it to Ice Cube before they interviewed him. When they played it to Ice Cube went off. When they aired the interview for NWA, they put at the end of it Ice Cube saying that he had them 100 miles and running. In Dr. Dre's mind, that made him look bad. The story goes from Dee Barnes that Dr. Dre beat her so bad that today she still has her head ringing. She talked about the song that Dr. Dre said, "Keep your heads ringing," and she says that song is apropos because every day at almost the same time in the same spot, her head rings from being beaten. What she says is she was caught in the bathroom by Dr. Dre, and even the scene from the movie Straight Outta Compton reminded her of when Dr. Dre had the elbow put in his back. She said that's exactly what happened to her from him. Also, Miss Chalet has come out and talked about how often Dr. Dre beat her. There was a white singer who was on the label for Ruthless, who also claims that Dr. Dre beat her. This was left out of the movie, and a lot of black women are saying it should have been put in the movie, and that his story should be told. Now, I agree with Dee Barnes, and I give her credit for this. She said that part of the beating and stuff should not have been put in the movie. And I also agree with the black women, and I know this is going to be odd, but I agree with the black women that this movie is misogynist. I can go back and listen to the NWA songs. I have a 9-year-old daughter. Guess who I will not let listen to the NWA songs? Ice Cube talked about his son, and he said he let his son know everything he did and blah, blah, blah. But I'm pretty sure he wouldn't sit down and let his daughter partake in the same stuff that he doesn't mind his son partaking in. So you don't mind your son going around and sowing his wild oats, but you don't want your daughter to do it. It is the hypocrisy of American life. It's the hypocrisy of most men in the world. Just because you call hypocrisy and you can understand hypocrisy doesn't mean that you sanction it. And just because you sanction something doesn't mean you think that it's right. Sad part about life is a lot of us sanction things that we know are wrong. Just it's okay for us to do it. And in this instance, I sanction this because this is this man's story. He paid for it. So why would this man talk about this story and make himself look bad? It's the same reason why he didn't talk about the amount of kids he has. Why should he? I wouldn't. If I paid to write my own story, it's going to be clean as a whistle. And that's going to be one of the things I want to do is talk about the inaccuracies of the film. But in this case, I agree with the women. The misogyny from those songs that we listen to, from the sleeping with the 14-year-old to shooting a woman, slapping a bitch. You know I never love these hoes. And it is what rap music is, though. Rap music was that from the beginning. It is that now. And the problem is, if black women really felt like this was misogynistic and that there's abuse of women that's sanctioned by this music, which it is, why are they buying it and dancing to it in such large numbers? I cannot listen to a group of individuals who are the main ones making these dudes do it. Because if they said they won't listen to it, dudes usually record a CD from somebody else. If women did not jam to it and say that was their song, dudes would make a different brand of music. So the power is in your hand, women. So while you're complaining and Miss LA, you guys are all just idiots to me. Not because you're telling your story, but because you're telling it so late. What is it about women that feel the need to destroy another person? And I want you guys to understand from the last video I did about colorism, please remember, the women that are attacking Dr. Dre are dark-skinned women. Ice Cube, dark-skinned women. Yo-Yo hasn't come out and said one thing about not being represented in the movie. One thing about getting beat up by somebody. Again, I understand the misogyny part of this movie, and I agree. I agree when you watch the movie, when you watch the idea that they even broke women down to color and how they wanted to cast them. How the only time you really saw women in the movie was half naked or actually naked getting people to have sex with them. But is that misogyny if that's exactly how their lives were? I did a show saying I don't trust women and neither should you. I know for a fact that there are women around me right now who, if they come up pregnant, they're keeping it just so they can get a check. No other reason, not because they care about me or the kid. Not because they want to do something for that kid's future. And I've been telling many of you guys that if you listen to rap music has been saying for years what I'm saying now. The difference between what I say and what rap music say is I use the term black woman, and they don't. Do you know why they don't use the term black woman? Because they don't have to. They're from the hood, they're dating black women. So if they're talking disparaging about the women they date, what kind of women do you think they're talking about? Let's be honest. But nobody will be honest except me. And that's the sad part about it. Everyone's being intellectually disingenuous. Of course it's misogynistic. But you didn't find this out in 2015 at the release of the movie. You didn't find out in 2015 at the release of the movie that Dr. Dre kicked ass. You knew it when he first dropped Aftermath, and Aftermath was a flop and nobody was there. And you thought his career was over. He still had already beaten you then. You knew it when he dropped his Chronic 2001 in 1999. Ironic. And yet now that the movie is doing well, you want the world to acknowledge that Dr. Dre is an abusive man. Well, you should have acknowledged it when you were getting abused, Miss LA. You should have acknowledged it when you were screwing two men and having babies by two men that worked at the same company, Miss LA. And D. Barnes, this is about 30 years since this incident happened with you. 25 years, 20, something like that. And I'm not one of those people to tell you, you need to shut up and go on with your life. Because if what you say is going on with you now then there's nothing wrong with you telling the story. But there is something wrong with you trying to tell us that we should view this man in a negative light because of your experience or some other woman's experience. I have no problem with a black man being misogynistic. Let me tell you why. Because so many of them were raised by black women. And if black women were such respectable people and great parents, why are they raising such misogynistic dudes? Huh? Why is it that the most misogynistic dudes come from single parent households? Single, strong black moms who are raising men who like calling women bitches and hoes. And no one will talk about this except me, of course. The movie is what it was, and it is what it is. It's a movie being told by two dudes who done got old, married, and they want to retell their life story. There were a lot of inaccuracies in this movie. One guy's not even here to be able to tell his side. They clean up what their relationship is. They place blame where it probably shouldn't have been. And give accolades where they probably don't deserve as much. So when it comes to misogyny, the misogyny card was thrown out of the window back in 1987, 86, whenever Luke came out, whenever they were doing all these dances to these songs. And the fact is, any man who's a big time singer and travels around the country, he's got groupies and women doing exactly what was in that movie and more. So please, stop trying to get other people to join your hatred of Dr. Dre. Why don't you start hating the fact that you've created this system? One, by patronizing it, buying the CDs, dancing to the CDs, and the most way you're doing it, by producing the dudes who do it. This movie, if you are a woman, you're not gonna see any real positive portrayals of women. None. Not black ones. The only positive portrayals of women were the 3 women that were married to the 3 men who the movie was about. And that's a fact. Every other woman is pretty much a jack off. Somebody you sleep with. Some hoe who had another boyfriend looking for her at the hotel room. And no, there are no stories of Dr. Dre beating any of the women he's ever been with. Dr. Dre only wanted to show the world how he beat up thugs and beat up people at death row. Probably very inaccurate, but when you have almost $1 billion and you have a name that you want to clean up, if you're going to call out Dr. Dre, make sure you call out Joe Kennedy. Make sure you call out Bill Clinton, because Bill Clinton don't talk about getting head in the Oval Office. So I'm pretty sure Dr. Dre doesn't want to talk about beating up women. I'm Thomas Sotomayor. I'm out.